Just got done watching Man of Steel, and let me just say, it's the greatest good movie I have ever seen. Alright, this is Critical Point Reviews, and thanks for watching. Sorry Leroy's not here, but he is watching it this weekend. If we can, we're going to try and get that movie, his review up probably around Saturday. All depends. If not, we will have his review up within the week coming. So you will have my opinion and his, and then me and him are going to do a spoiler review together. So let me go ahead and get into this. And like I already opened it up with, this is the greatest good movie I have ever seen. Or one of the greatest good movies I have ever seen. And what I mean by that is, Man of Steel had such epic ambition throughout the whole thing. The movie really it was on a grand scale like I've never seen before. Visually, it was stunning. It was just phenomenal. And Zack Snyder, who has previously, I'd never seen Sucker Punch, heard it was horrible. Heard the visuals were actually pretty good though. Watchmen, I know some people have problems with that movie. I really do enjoy it, but it's a visually stunning and captivating movie. 300, wasn't a big fan, but again, visually stunning and visually captivating. And he directed Dawn of the Dead also, and that was visually stunning in its own way in that it brought zombies running for the first time. The Dawn of the Dead remake, and so the movie felt extremely grand, like and epic, like no other movie, no other comic book movie I've ever seen, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is it had such a huge scale in its action. You felt the weight, and there was a lot of action in this movie. But I'll get to that. But you felt the weight of the movie. You felt of course, it was, I guess you would say, Avengers size epic, and you really felt the buildings. You felt a dramatic and like an emotional weight to when you saw all these people in peril. You saw the buildings crashing. You saw these epic fight scenes, especially the last one. You felt a dramatic weight to it. You felt this emotional impact, and that was like nothing I've ever experienced in a movie. It was on a huge, grand, epic scale, and what I mean by that is buildings were, cities were getting just demolished, and I've just never felt. Usually it's a good popcorn film, but this had an emotional weight like I just can't really put a finger on, and that was one of my favorite things about this movie. It had a lot of heart. Didn't necessarily achieve that, but there was one scene, and I saw the early showing, and the whole audience towards the end. There was one scene, and it almost brought me to tears. That it was. I can't spoil anything, but it was just. I was like, oh my gosh. I didn't see that coming, and the whole audience just kind of gasped and just started talking amongst themselves about the scene with it. I mean, it wasn't, but it was just. I think everyone was just taken aback from that, and there were scenes like that, and I can't go into specifics of that scene because it's a highly spoiler, but just stuff like particular scenes like that, and then there was another scene earlier that held it extremely dramatic, and it wasn't that it felt forced. It really did move. It moved me. It really did move me, and that's what I enjoyed. It was really how they did achieve this dramatic epicness and this heart that we don't necessarily see in superhero movies. I would say the superhero movie with the most heart, in my opinion, would be the first two Spider-Man movies. And that's kind of what I equate this movie to. It's not as good as those movies, but that's the one superhero movie. That's the only thing I can really compare this to, because it wasn't. It was nothing like Nolan's movies. It did have a much more serious tone to it, but I want to get that out of the way. If you're expecting, a Nolan Superman movie, a Dark Knight, Batman, gritty, it wasn't that. It definitely was. It had an extremely dramatic and a heartfelt tone to it, but it wasn't dark, really, in a sense. It wasn't really that Dark Knight gritty, but it didn't need to be. I'm glad it wasn't. You could definitely feel Zack Snyder's hand in the way it was directed. Like I said, visually, this is, in my opinion, these visuals we have never seen. The way some of the action sequences were filmed, it's just we've never seen them before. Now, at certain times, it does get a little hard to make out what's exactly happening. That's one of the things that I kind of had a problem with, but at the same time, it didn't happen enough to just take me out of the action, take me out of the film. I guess let me go ahead and, sorry about this, don't mean to give the synopsis 6 minutes in, but let me go ahead and jump straight into the synopsis. It's basically Superman's origin story, taken in a more realistic tone. And it's not like Dark Knight realistic, because there are certain things that it's like, what if, no, I take that back. What if Superman was in our world? And that's all I'm going to say. How would he come about? And I don't want to spoil anything, because especially the opening sequence, I didn't see that coming at all. And I don't want to spoil anything. And let me get into some of my problems. The movie definitely did have a couple plot holes. And that can either take you out of the movie. It didn't take me out of the movie. I was just like, wow, how did this happen? Why did this happen? Or why was this certain character brought to this certain place? And why did this certain character have this certain thing if it wasn't only to continue the plot? There were several plot holes. And I don't want to go into any. I'll get to that in the spoilers, but let me just put it like that. There were several plot holes. There was one pretty big plot hole, and you could either go with it or just not go with it. But I think, it was what it was. There were several plot holes, and the editing was a little odd. There were certain scenes that could have been completely taken out, especially I'll go into that in the spoilers, but there were certain scenes that could have been taken out. It would have shortened the movie, and I think it would have made it a tighter film. There were certain scenes that could have been shortened, and it would have made it a tighter film. Now, the film is it has a lot of action, and sometimes those action sequences stay a little too long. And I do compliment the action, because I do feel like it's something we have not seen before. The way it's filmed and just the brutalness of it, it's just awesome. But the editing, there were some scenes I was like, why did you have that there, and why did you have that especially you have a pretty big opening long sequence that could have been shortened, but then you bring in another scene right after introducing the Superman character that really couldn't have been there, and I don't want to go into why that couldn't have been there. Like I said, no spoilers, but certain scenes could have been taken out and would have made the movie tighter, and certain scenes could have been shortened. The actors were really good. Certain actors I thought were going to play a more bigger role, and they didn't necessarily. I thought Lawrence Fishburne's character, I forget the name, but the editor of the Daily Planet, I thought he was going to have a bigger role. He really wasn't in there, so if you're looking for a lot of Lawrence Fishburne, not really in there. But, Lois Lane's character, that I do kind of have a minor gripe. Her character still went along with the movie, but I felt like in fact, which I really liked, I felt like they really made her a strong female character, but then kind of laid back on that a little towards the end, but I'm eager to see what they do with her character. I know Warner Brothers is already gearing up for a sequel, so I'm eager to see what they do with her character in the next movie. I like Diane Lane as Superman's mom and Kevin Costner as Mom Paul Kent. I thought they did a really good job, and I thought it was a very realistic portrayal. Um, it was definitely heartfelt, and it felt like your parents. It felt what parents would do. Russell Crowe was really, really good. In fact, he was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie as Superman's, as Jor-El, Superman's dad in space. He was really, really good. He was, in fact, like I said, one of my favorite parts. And I know some people, I've been hearing in the reviews that some people didn't like Michael Shannon, but I thought everything Michael Shannon brought to the movie he did exactly what he wanted to. You could tell Michael Shannon was enjoying this role. You could tell what he was trying to get across. And especially towards the end, you could see the pain and just like the bitterness in his eyes. So I really did. I thoroughly did enjoy Michael Shannon. And I thought he did bring his own take on it. Now, have I seen Michael Shannon do better in certain other roles? But yes. But this is also his first big, blockbuster type movie. And I really did. I thoroughly enjoyed his character. And let me get to the most important part before wrapping up this review. Superman. How was Henry, what's his name? Henry Cavill, I think. I think that's his name. But how was the Superman? I really did enjoy him. I thought he brought a really good Clark and Superman character. He was just he seemed that's how Superman would be. He was, what would happen, like with all this certain things. Sorry, let me make myself clear. What would happen if, you were brought to a world as an alien, discovering that you're not like everyone else? And I think he portrayed that really well, and I think that he portrayed the Superman character extremely well. I know some people have said he was too bland, too serious, and I think only maybe in one scene that I can pick from that maybe he should have lightened up a little bit, but he was still, I thought that he really did portray an awesome Clark Kent and an awesome Superman, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does with the character in the sequel. So that's all I'll say for this. Go ahead and wrap it up. Just going over my overall thoughts real quick. I think Man of Steel, again, is the greatest good movie I have ever seen. It's not great, but it's the greatest good movie. And I think that it has extremely high ambitions, but it doesn't necessarily hit all of those. I think it has a lot of heart. I think it will visually just captivate you, and it will move you. But at the same time, there are certain things that pull the movie back, and it runs a little bit too long than it should. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3.5 plus. I'm eager to see what they do with the next movie, and it almost reaches that 4 minus, but it's just not quite there. But I think you'll have a great time watching Man of Steel. So that's this review, and stay tuned. Leroy's will be up soon, and spoiler review will be up probably by next weekend. So thank you for watching Critical Point Reviews, and let me know, what do you think about Man of Steel if you've seen it. Please subscribe and comment. What was your favorite parts? If you didn't like the movie, what didn't you like about it? So thank you again for watching, and this was Critical Point Reviews.